unique to Cosmos. But I think to better understand the different concepts, because you also said that Ethereum implements shared security, there's a difference between producing blocks in parallel other than implementing a smart contract platform, right? Because on Ethereum, all the apps or dApps that are running on it are running builds on smart contracts, right? So can you maybe explain a little bit the difference between those two concepts? Yeah, how it works in Cosmos versus Ethereum, for example.
Well, okay, yeah. So the see on Ethereum, you have different smart contracts on the same chain. You have to attack all of them to attack one of them. But their transactions all have to run in sequence, and they have to compete with each other for block space. On Cosmos right now, you have all these independent chains. They don't have to compete with each other, but they also don't share security. So interchain security is a way for those for there to be separate blockchains that all run in parallel, but also have the same validator set, so that you have to attack. Like if the validators wanted to turn evil, or if someone wanted to attack consensus, they kind of have to attack the entire thing. So all the value, if you interchain security, it's the chains are called consumer chains. They're consuming security. So you want to attack one of them, you have to attack the hub validator set, which will be validating a bunch of other ones as well. And the stake that's being staked on that will be a lot higher, because it's securing lots and lots of chains. And so because of that, it will be a higher bar to attack. So that's kind of the basic logic of shared security is you want to have parallelism, but also combining of the security and the stake that's securing all these different chains.
Yeah, I was asking.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I was asking because there was this recent proposal on the Cosmos Hub to implement CosmWasm. Right now there is no smart contract platform on Cosmos, right? So the whole architecture is on the Cosmos Hub is completely different. But yeah, we'll get into this also a little bit later. I want to hear your thoughts on CosmWasm and the proposal that did not go through. But yeah, so let's talk more specifically about the design architecture of interchain security on the Cosmos Hub. So maybe you can explain in as easy as possible. You already dropped some terms like consumer chains, for example. What in your opinion is the best concept for the Cosmos Hub? I think the only one that we know that comes close to what you guys are trying to build is implemented currently on Polkadot. So maybe you can also compare it to what they have been built and how interchain security on Cosmos differentiates to what's currently out there on the market.
So this is clear up some terminology with interchain security. Basically, it's the Cosmos Hub, and we call that a provider chain in the code. And that's providing security for consumer chains. Those consumer chains are consuming security. And what that really means, what consuming security means in the interchain security sense, is that they are being validated by the same validator set of the Cosmos Hub. So the Cosmos Hub validator set will not only validate the transactions going directly onto the hub, it will also validate, all the blockchains that are consumer chains. And it will be the same validators. Interchain security is simply a protocol that sends validator sets from the Cosmos Hub to the consumer chains. And the consumer chains then say, okay, this is my validator set. These are the correct validators to confirm that transactions are valid. And so what you end up with is just a protocol to make sure the same validator set is securing a bunch of different chains. And that's really what it is at a basic level. And so that has several benefits. So one of them is the consumer chains. It's this one, like I was saying before, it's this one validator set. So if you want to attack it, you got to attack the hub validator set. So if someone's starting a small blockchain, there's a lot more security if they're doing it as a consumer chain, because to attack the consensus, you literally have to attack the hub consensus. And then the other one is that people starting blockchains don't have to look for for a validator set. They don't have to try to put together a validator set. And so compare that to Polkadot. I actually don't. I wish I knew a little bit more about how Polkadot works exactly, like internally. I know more about rollups, and that's usually what I compare it to in my mind. But Polkadot basically has the parachains have collators, and the collators are basically getting transactions and putting them into blocks. And once those blocks are assembled, those blocks go onto the relay chain. So Polkadot is scaling by kind of saying the relay chain validators are doing one job and the parachain collators are doing another job. And so those jobs can be done in parallel. And so you can kind of increase the performance by splitting up the work. So yeah, but it's still secured. So the relay chain is still processing all the state transitions from one block to the next. And so you can be confident of the security of the parachains because it's ultimately all being processed by the relay chain. So comparing that to interchain security doesn't split up the work between validators. It's the same logical validators, so the same validation companies or individuals who are validating all of the consumer chains and the hub. But what it does do is that it allows those validators, since all the consumer chains are running on separate threads, basically separate block space, the validators can basically have multiple different computers that are running, like each, it won't necessarily, like for small consumer chains, maybe they can be, several could be run on one computer or what have you, that's more of a matter for the validator's own infrastructure, but they can basically scale horizontally with interchain security. And so that's, but the scaling mechanism is different from Polkadot in that you're trusting it because it's the same validator set. You're not trusting it because it's getting checkpointed into one central chain. So that's kind of the difference. I can also compare it to rollups too, if you want.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So rollups are basically there's a lot of different rollup designs and different technical terms that can be a little bit hard to navigate with rollups. But basically, how I understand them is that they are it's a way. So rollups have have engines for doing fraud proofs over the computation on a blockchain, and so it's a way for one validator set, one very secure validator set, let's say, which is called the settlement layer, to check the work of other validator sets. So these other validator sets, the roll-up validators, or they're called sequencers actually, these sequencers don't really have to be trusted because if anybody has a problem with what the sequencer has done, they can take it to the settlement layer and say, hey, the sequencer did this wrong, and now you need to roll it back. And so there's mechanisms on rollups where they're not optimistic rollups, at least. The ZK rollups are a whole different story, but optimistic rollups, you basically, any real money that's going to be moved or whatever has a waiting period. And if during that waiting period, somebody says, hey, the sequencer did this wrong, then it can be rolled back. So rollups split up the work by saying, hey, you got this one, let's say the settlement layer was the Cosmos hub. You have this one secure validator set with 175 validators, and then you have all these rollups, and they have one sequencer a piece, basically one validator, and you can trust them because their work can always be checked by the settlement layer. And so, from a performance perspective, you have 150 validators on the hub on the settlement layer, and then for each rollup you have one validator. And so with interchain security, you have 150 validators for the hub, and then you have the same 150 validators for each consumer chain. And so if you're looking at it from a very high level, systematic perspective, it is, interchain security does require more processing power in the system as a whole because each consumer chain has 150 CPUs running it instead of one CPU running it. But there's also a lot of simplicity So it's just rollups are very much a cutting edge, area of research still. And interchain security is actually like extremely simple. It's just like, the same validators just validate all these chains, and you get pretty much, in my opinion, I mean, you get almost, you get almost all the same security benefits, and then also in terms of the scalability, it's a factor of 150, and in computing, a factor of 150 is not that big of a deal, because you're usually dealing with factors of 1,000 or 1,000,000 orders of magnitude.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.